our January 26, 2022 Douglas County Board of County Commissioners business meeting. We want to welcome any of you who are with us at the Old County Courthouse or joining virtually. To get us started, I want to pass on a bit of information regarding how we will run our hybrid meetings in person and on Zoom. Excuse me. Each action item on the agenda will offer an opportunity for public comment specific to that topic. We ask that you wait until that item on the agenda has come up for discussion. Near the beginning of our agenda, before regular business, we will invite general public comment, which is for items not on today's agenda, but related to general county business. All public comments should be directed to the county commission. We will take public comment from folks who are here in person first, then online commenters. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are joining us online, please use the raise your hand function on Zoom when you are ready to give comments. Staff will call on you and unmute you one at a time. We ask that speakers give their full name and Douglas County residents for meeting minutes. The county reserves the right to shut off the microphone and remove any speaker from the meeting if they are vulgar, rude, or inappropriate. If visual aids are used during the meeting, the presenter will share their screen. Online participants will not be able to view them without a computer, smartphone, or tablet. Presenters will be made panelists and unmuted by staff as each agenda item comes up. And we ask that all online presenters use good conference call etiquette and stay muted when not speaking. Please also introduce yourselves each time you speak. The chat function is turned off and a recording of this meeting will be available on our website and YouTube page after it's adjourned. Okay, and with that, we'll start with the consent agenda. Do either of the commissioners want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Commissioners, if I may, I've had a request from staff to remove the item on the sunflower grant. There's just a few more I's and T's to be dotted in the agreement. So we would like to have that pulled from consent and tabled while we work on those, and then we'll bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you for that, Sarah. Is there anybody online that is interested in pulling anything from the consent agenda? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion.
So probably the first motion we need is to defer item 1.5 or pull it.
Two separate.
I mean, you could do it either way. You could either just approve it without it, and then technically,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 on the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to general public comment. We do not have anyone with us this evening in person. Is there anyone online who would like to provide general public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our regular agenda. Sarah, do we have, actually I believe Jill, you have a presentation for us.
Yes, commissioners, I do. My camera on my laptop is not working, but I did want to just hit the highlights of the annual tow operator agreement that I submitted cover memo for each of you to review in advance. This is an annual process that Douglas County invites area tow operators to participate in the agreement to be on our tow rotation list in exchange for compliance with adhering to the standards that are set out and the expectations that are set out in the agreement. The biggest one being adhering to those maximum charges that are for tow services that are outlined in the agreement, and the backup resolutions that support all of that. This is a discretionary program that Douglas County participates in. We're under no obligation to have this kind of arrangement, but we do it as a kind of being a good partner in partnership with our tow service providers, and also just to provide options to motorists that are in need of a tow referral. Tony Foster with the 911 Dispatch Center is on the meeting to answer any questions from a technical aspect about how that works with ECC. But folks, the agencies that sign these annual agreements with us, I finalize those agreements. I provide a list to Tony, and his staff use that list to assign tow operators to show up to scenes for individuals that do not have a preference for who is going to do their tow. But at the end of the day, motorists that do have a tow operator that they want to use, they can always designate that. This is just for for motorists that do not have a designated tow operator, but are in need of one when their need is called into dispatch. I was contacted by one of the tow operators who was communicating on behalf of some other providers that he indicated he had met with. It was Terry Peterson with Midwest Tow, and shared some suggestions with me that I wanted to make sure I passed along to each of you about requests for 2 of those maximum charges to be increased. I outlined that in the 2022 tow provider charges quick guide. You can see the proposed cost that Mr. Peterson shared was increasing the tow fee from $175 plus $4 per mile to $250 plus $4 per mile, and then requested an increase to the materials for the floor dry that they're required to apply, just to reflect the cost of doing business that they have experienced in the work that they do. Administration does not have any recommendation to you to increase those maximum charges or not. That's up for your consideration today. And I'm happy to answer any questions or try to address any concerns that you may have. But ultimately, we're recommending no change. We're not proposing any changes, but I wanted to make sure that you had the information on that the tow operators had requested to consider if you wanted to make changes, and we could bring that back next week. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jill. As Commissioner Reed here, I heard one question for clarification. When a motorist that doesn't have a designated tow company calls dispatch, does dispatch facilitate, did they dispatch one of these tow companies out kind of on a rotation basis, or a first, whoever answers the call first, or do they give that information to a motorist?
They dispatch to the next agency that's on our organization that's on the rotation. If they don't pick up, then they'll go to the next person. And I know that Tony shared the most updated version of the policy. They do their very best to put folks back to the top of the list if they can. If the tow request is canceled before the individual arrives on scene, they do their best to move them back up to the top. But I might just I'm going to move Tony over just to make sure I'm getting that right, because I do not have that policy pulled up right in front of me. So I might just let him answer that. Tony, can you clarify that process for the commission?
Yes, for sure. The way the process works, and first of all, good evening. The way the process works is when a officer that arrives on the scene with a motorist or a car accident requests for a tow where they do not have a preference, we will use the countywide tow rotation to select the operator that is on the top of the list. If the operator arrives on scene to the accident or motorist assist, and then later is canceled due to conversations or whatever business that happens at the scene of the vehicle, they will lose their rotation. If the operator is canceled while they're en route, so before they arrive on scene, then we will place them on top of the list as if they were never called. Typically what we do is we'll call the top person on the top of the list. If they pick up, we give them the information. They can either at that point in time choose to respond to the situation, or they can choose to deny that particular non-preference tow request. If they deny the request, they do go to the bottom, and we proceed through the list until we find a tow operator that is willing to take the tow or the motorist assist or whatever the situation shall be.
This is Commissioner Reed. Thanks, Tony. That's really helpful. And you answered my other question, which was about whether or not tow operators had the ability to deny based on capacity. So thanks for that explanation. Any other questions from commissioners?
I have a couple of questions, Jill, about the change in pricing. So you said one tow operator contacted you, and it seemed like from the memo, there was something about there was a consensus among tow operators, but I didn't hear you say that in your
I apologize.
presentation.
That was the message that Terry Peterson with Midwest Tow indicated, that he had met with some of the other operators, and that was the consensus, that they would like to see that tow fee and the materials fees increased. And one of the biggest, and they designated him, according to Mr. Peterson, they designated him to reach out to me and communicate that. And we had a good conversation. In the past, we have had meetings with tow operators and solicited their feedback. And I have chosen not to do that in the last couple of years. I am open to feedback throughout the year about and opportunities for improvement, but really, we have not seen a need to increase these fees historically or make any modifications. And there are a lot of, I think a lot of the concerns that have been brought historically have been worked out. I haven't heard a single concern from any community members or tow operators in between now and the last time we modified this agreement, with the exception of Mr. Peterson reaching out to me because he knew that the agreements were coming up for a renewal again.
And was it communicated to him that you would not be recommending
Yep,
to increase it or not to increase it? You would.
I'd just be sharing the information.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then my last question is for Tony. Tony, do you get a sense, do you get lots of denies when, I mean, because that would be data that's telling us maybe the rate isn't right if they were turning it down. Do you get lots of denials? Do you keep track of that at all?
We don't keep track of why they're denied, but just by experience, typically when they deny is for certain situations like vehicle lockouts or something that doesn't include a tow, that an actual tow itself, or if they do not have an operator available because they are already towing other vehicles and can't respond in a timely manner. Those are the two situations where we typically find denial of the tow rotation.
Thanks.
Jill, I'm guessing that we don't have anyone here from any of the tow companies who can answer questions.
No, and I did share with Mr. Peterson that it would be on this evening's agenda. No, we
Okay,
don't.
because I'm just wondering, and Tony, you may have some insight on this, I don't know, but it looks like previously there was a difference between standard sized vehicles and vehicles with 5 or more wheels. And now the ask is that the pricing is the same. And so I don't know if there was a reason for a difference in pricing previously that has now changed because of some sort of technology change, or if they're only asking for an increase in standard vehicle size because that's more common. Do we have any insight on that?
Just assuming, this is a completely assumption, but if it was Mr. Peterson with Midwest Tow, he typically does not tow vehicles that are large in stature. They don't have the equipment to do so. So it would be one of the other tow companies that would have to weigh in on their cost for operating that machinery.
I wanted to offer to one perspective that Mr. Peterson did offer, and I did not spell this out in the memo because there's just a lot to unwrap there, is that one of the challenges that he's shared with me is that when they tow vehicles, there's a lot of circumstances where the vehicle is never claimed. And it's a lot of work to go through the process to dispose of that vehicle or sell it, and the work that goes into clearing everything that they need to do to dispose of the vehicle. He indicated to me that there's a significant cost to that. And so I want to make sure that I shared that with each of you as well.
Any further, this Commissioner Reed, any further questions from commissioners? Okay, we will go to public comment. Is there anybody online that would like to provide public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for discussion amongst commissioners.
I'm inclined to leave the prices as they are, given that we haven't really heard much of a compelling reason, and making small vehicles and large vehicles the same fee and price structure to me just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm inclined to leave them as they are.
This is Commissioner Reed, I tend to agree. I think I would want some more understanding of why there was a difference in that price in the first place and whether or not we needed to assess that those larger vehicles needed a different maximum tow and assess kind of what those rates are looking like across companies.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I just have one request for Jill, and you said you were willing to take some feedback, and I'd love to get some feedback from commissioners. I think it would be nice to set up, I don't know that we need to meet with tow operators every year, but if we could say every 4 years, 5 years, you know, that this would be the time to meet, that if we're going to make time changes to the, I'm not real comfortable with one person saying I'm representing all that doesn't, but if we told them like every third year we will meet as a group, and if you want changes, this is the time for changes, because there has to be a process for them to come forward and say, I mean, I want to make sure, and part of this agreement is that we get tow operators out to people and that they're not gouging them on prices. That's the whole reason for this. But I also want to make sure that those tow operators are not turning down calls because the cost is gone. What they're getting paid for it is below what they can do the job for. So does that make some sense? Does that feel comfortable, commissioners?
Commissioner Reed, yeah, I appreciate that suggestion and think that especially in response to the comments received, that to create an opportunity for convening them and getting some information and then setting up a path forward that has some rhythm to it seems like a good idea. And I'm also definitely interested in hearing from more than one tow operator and being able to ask some of those technical questions. So with that, I will.
Sounds like we might be ready for a motion. This is Commissioner Portillo. I move to approve the 2022 tow service agreement and maximum charges.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. With that, we'll move on to appointments. Sarah, would you like to talk with us about any current appointments?
The only one, commissioners, we have some current reappointments for the Judicial Nominating Commission that I just emailed commissioners about. So you've not had time to review those. So I think that'll be hopefully coming up. Those don't expire till March. So those are the ones I'm aware of right now.
Okay. Any other appointments from fellow commissioners? All right. How about miscellaneous items from staff?
Commissioners, and you have my weekly memo in your packet, just a bunch of dates coming up on a bunch of really interesting things. I wanted to specifically mention the Kansas County's inaugural 2022 County Day event. Our county clerk is hosting a voting rights forum this upcoming Sunday. And there's a 3-part series on examining the Commission on Racial Equity and Justice's final recommendations webinar. I want to make sure you guys have that on your calendars. And that's all I have at this time, commissioners.
Thanks, Sarah. Any miscellaneous items from commissioners? Okay, seeing none. Oh, more from staff.
There was some conversation about board changes. If we need more time, we certainly can take more time.
Okay, I don't need more time. Yeah, so I'm going to recommend that we make a little change in our board assignments and switch Commissioner Portillo and I would take a role on the Peasley board, and Commissioner Portillo would take a role on the BTBC board.
Sarah, do we need any sort of formal motion or action other than that explanation?
I guess
So-
my only question is it the BTBC board or is it now the
Oh, yeah.
KU
KU
Innovation?
Innovation Park.
Innovation Park
Why don't we just
Board.
do a motion and?
Yeah, why don't we
and
just do a
to
motion?
be Yeah, so I'll make a motion to appoint Commissioner Portillo to the KU Innovation Park Board.
Second, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 This is Commissioner Portillo. I will make a motion to appoint Commissioner Kelly to the Peasley Tech Board.
Second, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, thanks for that. And with that, I believe we are adjourned.